So now, without further delay, let's begin today's event. Sponsored by Plaid and hosted by Financial Planning. It's my pleasure to introduce your moderator for today, and that is Tobias Salinger. Toby, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. And just to begin, why don't we just make sure we go through the CE credit instructions. Keep a lookout at the end of our program following the speaker presentations for the prompt to enter your CFP number in order to receive the full credit for today's session on practice growth. As you can see, you must be in attendance for the complete session, and you must provide that number at the end of the program. And we are very excited today because it's going to be a great program. We have three excellent speakers who are going to take you through the topic of practice growth. We'll start with Layla Pence. She's the president and co-founder of Pence Wealth Management. She'll be followed by John Hyland, the co-founder and financial advisor from Private Advisor Group. And then we'll end with Cameo Roberson. She's an advisor, coach, and operations consultant with Atlas Park Consulting and Finance. Layla, why don't you get us started?
Thank you, Toby. Hello, everyone. So I want to just take you back to when I started in my business here. I started out with my first client giving me $20,000 to invest. It took me about 15 years to grow my business to $150 million. And I had to work very hard. I was inside of sharing space with other advisors with one assistant. And I was always worried about expenses. How do I keep my expenses low? But then I realized that I just plateaued. No matter what I did, I could not grow anymore. I worked very, very hard, and I realized that I needed to build a team. Like the slide says, if you want to go fast, you go alone. But if you want to go far, you need to go with a team. So I structured this team here. This team structure here has helped me grow the business to $1.7 billion of assets, and we've never bought another practice. We have a team of 28 people, and it's divided into various sections. As you can see on the screen, we have a marketing section. That's all they do, the social media and everything else. And then I have a planning team, service team, all the paperwork and so forth. The client is always in the middle, and then I have an investment team. The investment team is really, really important because this is where we have a group of 6 people. It's headed by my husband, and they alleviate all the work I have to do. By having a team that actually does the investments every day, I can focus on just dealing with the clients and talking to clients and meeting with clients. And so really having a team, I know it's hard. I never wanted to have a lot of expenses and deal with employees and your overhead and all of that. But if you really want to go to the next level, you need to join it or build your own team. It's a way to really practice growth. Then once I built that team, I needed to really duplicate myself because it's just me and 5 other advisors. So how do I grow my business? There's only 24 hours in a day. I'm a mother. I'm a wife. I have a lot of other interests that I like to do. And I used to think, well, if I want to have a planner with me all the time, isn't that a waste? Shouldn't I have other people working? But I realized that by hiring a paraplanner that shadows me, she shadows me everything I do on the phone, meetings. It has totally changed my business. It allowed me really to double my business. You can see a picture of her here on the screen. Her name is Emily, and then she has her own team that she delegates to. But the fact that she's always with me on every meeting allows us to establish that relationship with the client, not just with me, with her, so that they know right there and then that they talk to her for almost everything else that doesn't have to do with investments and specific planning questions. She really handles everything else. So once I meet with the clients, once we get the clients, I basically turn over most things to her and to my team. That allows me to go on to the next person and the next client. And it's a lot easier transition to do that. Then I wanted just to cover with you a couple of things, small things, because I find in my business that it's the little things that make a difference, not the big things. So, when social media began, and Facebook, and I would say, how am I going to have the time to really do the social media? And then when I have my marketing team, now they post something every day. But that wasn't enough. What I found really that I use social media for is to build relationship, not necessarily what everyone told me in the beginning that is going to get me a whole bunch of clients. I primarily use Facebook. So my company has a Facebook page, and they post every day things about the markets and what's going on and so forth. And then on my personal Facebook, I share these posts on my personal Facebook. And then then all of a sudden I started getting clients asking to befriend me on Facebook, on my personal Facebook. Initially I said, oh my gosh, do I really want them to know about all the travel I do and all my personal things that I do? Do I really want to accept that friendship? And it took me maybe about a day or so, and I realized, yes, I do. And that it's, we always talk about clients being our friends. Well, it's so natural that they want to be friends on my Facebook. So I started accepting these friendship invitations, and it really changed the relationship I have with the clients. Because it is true, friends don't fire friends, they refer them. And so initially, I did it just to become friends with my clients and to know more about them. When they're coming into our office for a meeting or a Zoom meeting and so forth, no, I just check the Facebook and I find out so much about them, and I have a whole new thing to talk to them about, and it has changed the relationship I have with the clients. And in the end, it actually they started referring other clients to me. So I recommend that this is something you might want to consider. Another thing that I do that's small but seems to pay a lot of dividends is I do send edible arrangements with a thank you note anytime a client sends me a referral. And it's just a small note that says, this is a small thank you for the referral. As these clients now with being stayed at home for COVID, we've been sending some of these also our clients saying, hey, thank you, thinking of you. So a lot of little things, these edible arrangements for $50 or $75 have made a huge difference. And I just thought I'd share that with you all listening today. Now I want to transition to really what's helped me in this COVID environment. Because this is an environment that's going to last, what we're doing now is going to last a lot longer than this COVID pandemic. And it is basically how we use technology today to communicate with clients and prospects. For the longest time, as I built my business, a lot of my clients tend to be retirees and pre-retirees, so they're older. So we would use email, we would do blast emails, we would send out newsletters and paper. We would always have office meeting and office events and outside, events, and that's how I grew my business all these years. Well, now, of course, with COVID, all of that has stopped. And in the beginning of March, when everything happened, when the markets were going down 2,000 points and the volatility we were having, I realized that my client needed to hear our voices. It wasn't enough that I would send an email. And I woke up in the morning and I said, we have to do a podcast. And by the end of the day, we built this podcast, and we do it through Zoom. We send it to all our clients. They're listen mode only. And it's a 30-minute podcast where we do question and answers between me and my husband, who is our chief investment officer of the firm. And we go through market updates and what's going on with the virus, and we tell clients, what we're thinking about, what is happening. And then we ask them in advance, so if they have any questions, they could submit those questions, and then we answer them on these podcasts. But the key to the podcast is the action items. At the end of the podcast, we go through, here are some of the things that we've done, but here's the action items that you as a client need to do. Like, really consider Roth conversion. Consider adding to accounts in these down markets. Look at pre-funding your retirement contributions, things that they should do. And to my amazement, the minute these podcasts are over, we started getting emails. I want to add to my account. I want to do a Roth conversion. I want to fund. We also ask them to send these podcasts the links to their friends and relatives, because once we have the podcast and they get approved through the compliance, then we actually have it on our website so they can refer to it, or they can send it to the friends and relatives. And it's amazing. There's just one little thing, how it's changed our business, I think, forever, because now we're doing these podcasts every 2 weeks, but from now on, we're going to do them at least every 2 weeks, every month. It's a way to reach many, many clients. And we found that people really love these podcasts. The other day, I had a client traveling to San Francisco. She says, you know what, I just listened to a lot of your podcasts, and I want to add to my account, and I want to do Roth conversion. So they last a lot longer than just the time that while we're doing them live. And then the other thing that we're doing is, although the podcasts are just listen only, a lot of people are more, they want to see things visually. So we do these private brief videos, and we record them when we put them on our website as well. And in the podcast, we tell our clients about them. And these videos are really much more in-depth analysis of the markets, what's happening with COVID, what's happening, with the PPP program or the stimulus package, a lot more information about what's happening now. And then we also talk about how we're investing and how we're different and what we're doing. And these videos have been amazing in the sense that they're really easy to do. We put them on the website, and clients are listening to them or watching them and sending them to their friends and relatives. And that's a big, big thing that we've never had before. We always thought that if we didn't meet someone in person or they didn't have a person-to-person meeting, that they wouldn't do this. But this COVID has really changed that we use technology when it comes to videos and private briefs, which we used to do in person. We have an upcoming luncheon that we used to do where we'd have like 500 clients in person, and now we're going to have to do that all virtually. And that's been a big change with technology as well. But the biggest change I think that will last forever is the Zoom meetings. I call that the new normal. I know that phrase has been used a lot, but I think Zoom meetings are really the new normal. So what we do is we actually send the updates for the clients, their balance sheet, their performance, and so forth. And I've learned very well now that in a Zoom meeting, I can share this information with the clients. But also, I'm not limited to just talking to the clients themselves. They are now bringing in their daughter or their son that's involved. I can bring in their CPA, their accountant, their attorney. I can bring in other team members. I can bring the investment team if they have a question on that. And, of course, my paraplanner is on there as well. And we can be all in different locations, and we can all meet together and go through their updates. And I find that clients really like that. The fact that when we send them the Zoom meeting link, we tell them, hey, is there someone else that you want to invite to this that you think that may be important to? So it opened up a lot more interaction between the team and between us as well. But one of the things it did, it actually freed me. I now know that I don't have to be in the office from now on to have these continuous updates with my clients. I could be traveling somewhere. I could be at home. I could be in Europe. I can be anywhere, and I can still practice business. I can still have my business as normal. And that's been something, that's a real revelation that we didn't have before. The other thing, too, normally I was limited to maybe having 3 meetings a day when it comes to reviews. But now these Zoom meetings last about an hour at the most, 45 minutes. So I find that I'm able to do maybe 6 meetings a day instead of just 3. But the biggest thing is that I gotten referrals from people that are not locally. I just got a big client in Dallas because as I was talking to my existing clients, and now with the Zoom, they said, we have this friend in Dallas that we'd like to refer you to. Would that be all right with you? And then I had the other day, my client said, my parents sold out on the markets on March 31st, and they have all their money in cash, and they live in Florida. Would you talk to them? So the clients are realizing that I am not now limited to them referring me to just their local friends or someone local, that they can refer clients to me all over the country. I could tell you that having Zoom meetings and really promoting that I've gotten more referrals these last 3 months than I had all of last year, just through Zoom meetings. So, but you have to promote it. It's not just enough to say, let's have a Zoom meeting with a client. I promote that. At the end of the meeting, I say, now that we're doing these Zoom meetings, do you have friends or family or members that you want to introduce me to that we couldn't do before? And it is amazing the response for the clients, because they may, especially with their family, because a lot of them don't live locally. And now with these Zoom meetings, I can meet with them and I can have them as referrals. So I could tell you that that's been the biggest change in my practice. And I know there'll be a question-answer format at the end of the session. I'll be happy to answer any questions anyone has at that time. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to our next speaker, John Hyland. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Leila. Always hard to follow you, so thanks a lot. Also, thanks to Financial Planning and Plaid for pulling this webinar together today. I'm really looking forward to sharing some things I've learned over the last 30 years or so, both as an advisor and as an individual who grew a firm. Like most of you, I got in this business to help people. And from day one, I had an entrepreneurial mindset, always thinking about the future, always looking at things strategically. So when I graduated college with my sociology degree, I went to a firm, and it was a fine firm for about 6 years, but it didn't necessarily hit on all the entrepreneurial opportunities I thought was available for us. So we started to look for more of an independent platform. And back in 1997, myself, Pat Sullivan, a couple other advisors, we moved over to LPL in 97, again, for that more independent platform. And the five of us moved over, and it didn't take us long as the five of us in one office to identify synergies and opportunities that we could have within the five of us. As a quick example, we hired a non-producing compliance officer to take care of our compliance and regulatory commitments. And as you guys know, or many of you know, that compliance 20 years ago is nothing like it is today. But even back then, that created great synergy amongst the five of us at that point in time. We became more efficient as advisors. We grew our practices faster than we ever had before. So we're starting to identify opportunities at the early stages of our firm. Also, just kind of a little background and also a little bit forward-looking information about myself and the firm. We felt back in 2010 that launching an independent RIA was going to be very important. We thought that was going to be a big part of the future, and I guess we were right. In 2011, first quarter of 2011, we launched Private Advisor Group, and as of today, 9 years later, we have currently 661 affiliated advisors. We have advisors in 35 states, and we currently have about approximately, I have to say approximately because the markets are what they are, approximately about $35 billion in total assets, and of that 35, 22 billion of them is AUM. The remaining, by and large, is legacy brokerage assets. So part of the theme I'm going to really focus on tonight is being an entrepreneur, and what does that mean, and what are those opportunities, and what are those challenges for you? As I said before, I think you always need to be thinking about the future, not so much about today, but about the future and the opportunities that lie ahead. There was two books when I was younger in the industry that really made a big impact on me. The first is E-Myth, which I'm sure many of you have already read, and it's a great book if you haven't. But there's one great theme that comes out of that book for me and for others, and it's the concept of working on the business, not in the business. And financial advisors today wear so many hats, especially in this environment. You know, they're managing the problem of the day, they're servicing clients, they're trying to prospect new clients, they're dealing with staff, financial planning. I mean, there's so many hats that they're wearing. It's so very difficult. But the concept of working on your business, not in, is a really powerful concept that you should really be thinking about. And again, I know day to day we get involved with our clients and what we do and what we have to do, but it's really important to try to take that time to work on the business, not in it always. It was a big thing for me, and I think made a big impact in my career. So, but that's important to bring up. So next slide, really talk about entrepreneurial success and what's required. First is, of course, identifying opportunities. Some opportunities are super obvious. They stand right in front of you and you can't miss them. And some opportunities aren't necessarily that clear. You have to look for them. You have to think about them. You have to look at the landscape. You look at your competitors. What are those opportunities going to be? And once you identify them, then you have to have the courage to act. And this kind of goes back to the theme I just spoke a moment ago, that an advisor or a small firm is looking at this opportunity, but geez, we're doing all this other stuff right now. Can I really take on another opportunity? And I think that's a big issue, that you do need to move forward and act on that opportunity if you really want to have that entrepreneurial success. And then third, of course, is perseverance, grit. I call it be relentless. I see a lot of times over the years, you'll see an advisor or firm identify a really great opportunity. They go forward to act. It doesn't work right away, and it kind of fades away, and that's unfortunately. So I highly encourage that if you have an opportunity that you really believe in, that be relentless, and it will eventually work out. So I'll admit a couple things here. One is, as a firm and me as an individual, I'm not a big planner as it relates to business plans, which is kind of something I probably shouldn't, but I'm going to share it anyway. But there's really a couple tools that we use that I think are really simple, real straightforward. I'll bet everybody on this call today has done these two items that I'm going to go through today, but they're so important. I think that success is really just about the blocking and tackling of life, and I think these two items that we're going to go through now, I think, are the essence of good business strategy and planning. So the slide in front of you really is what we would call a gap analysis. The first starting point is, where are you today? And I think people really need to be honest about really where are you today. We all have blind spots. We all have them. And we have to be honest about them. We have our strengths. We have our weaknesses. So we recently, as a firm last year, we went through a process of spending a lot of time talking about and thinking about what we weren't good with. So really getting a handle of where are we today. And it's not necessarily a real comfortable process to talk about your weaknesses, but it's really important to be strategic about that and to really identify them and tackle them. The second step is, where do you want to be? Very simple, right? Here I am today. There's where I want to be it in a year, 5 years, 10 years. And what this is going to show you your gap analysis. What are the opportunities that you're available to today that will help you get to that end bar? Super forward, very simple, very easy process. I know before I mentioned books that made an impact in me in my early career in this profession. And the other one really is The 7 Habits of Highly Efficient People. I think it's now 8 habits, but when I read it, it was 7 habits. So I'm going to stick with that. And the one habit that really stuck out for me, and I think kind of ties into this slide perfectly, is the habit of begin with the end in mind. And it's one of those simple things that I kind of got it and understood it way back when, and I use that all the time when I say, geez, if we're going to do this, let's begin with the end in mind. What's it going to look like? How are we going to get there? And again, super straightforward, easy process to go through, but I think it makes a big impact for advisors and for firms. So this slide here is, again, super simple. what we have in front of us many times, entrepreneurs and business owners, we have opportunities. We need to identify them, but we need to plot them. We need to say, which ones are the priorities? And I can tell you this is an issue that we've made probably many mistakes over the years, that we had all these opportunities, and a lot of times we ran down the opportunity we liked the most, but not necessarily the most impactful. So what we do as a team, we will identify the opportunities that we picked up in the gap analysis, and we plot them on this matrix right here. So in the top right-hand corner, it will say that it'll create a high impact, and it takes very little resources. So anything up in the top right corner, I would call that, the easy ones to do. Super easy to get it done, and something you always should be. The things that drift down on the right bottom square, it's highly impactful, but also requires a lot of resources. So those are things you really need to start to think about. Geez, where are they on my priority list? And I'll give you just a kind of a crazy example. Building a brand in the industry nationally, advertising, yes, has a huge impact, but it takes a ton of resources to actually get that done. So that's something we as a firm have always stayed away from, and I think it's very difficult for an advisor themselves or herself or a small firm to actually make an impact in the advertising aspect of the industry. So in those, though, you want to measure them and see which ones are going to be the best for you and for your firm and for the future. When we go through that matrix that I just went through, we pull it all into a plan. And again, we don't spend a whole lot of time as a firm doing long-term planning. We usually have a one-year plan that we continually adjust. So it's like a rolling year, so to speak. It's not a calendar year, it just kind of rolls forward. And what we do as a team every week is we get together, we talk about our opportunities, about our plan, we prioritize what's important, and then we assign an opportunity to a member of our team where they are accountable for, not necessarily for the reports, but for reporting back and saying, here's what's going right, here's what's going wrong, and we as a team are going to address that as a team. Checkpoints. Obviously, we want to see how are we doing in this opportunity. Is the opportunity what we think it is? Sometimes you'll go into something, think it's a great opportunity, and maybe it's not. The world changes. Obviously, we have some real examples of that in the last couple of months. So when things do change, you have to be flexible and able to pivot. Occasionally, we have bumps in the road or barriers, and if those barriers are ones that we can move or jump over or get under, we'll go do that. And sometimes those barriers just become so difficult we may have to abandon that opportunity itself. Not often, but occasionally. And then finally, I think probably the biggest challenge for advisors and firms is all around executing. Executing every single day as to what you say, how you're going to support your advisors, how are you going to impact your end clients, and execute around that every single day. And I think that is, as I said before, I think we're a pretty straightforward firm. We keep things simple, and I think that these two tools that I shared with you today can make a huge difference in your current success and your future success. And again, as Layla said, there's going to be some Q&A at the end, so happy to answer any questions anybody has about our firm, our history, and how we overcame many obstacles over the years. So again, thank you very much. I am going to pass on the slides to the very talented Cameo Robertson to take us to the next couple slides.
Thank you so much, John. Great information you shared about business planning, and Layla, great insight into what's working in your firm. Hi, everyone. I'm Cameo Robertson, and thank you to Toby and Financial Planning and Plaid for the opportunity really to share my perspective on practice growth. And I'm excited to share with you kind of what I'm seeing as a consultant, as well as practical things that you can do to implement within your firm. So a little bit about me. I got my start in the industry working in client service and operations, really for 3 different size RIAs over about 15 years. And I wore all the hats: operations, client service, business development, management, compliance, marketing, you name it. But what this did gave me great insight into the inner workings of firms and allows me as a consultant to help shape best practices for my clients. So in 2018, I launched a 100% virtual and outsourced solution to help firms better manage how they do business and serve clients better. Personally, I was tired of the traffic, but I can tell you that current conditions are reflecting the need for us to think about how we can future-proof our businesses and realize ways to optimize how we do business, including virtually. So what does practice growth look like? So as you think about your own firm, and I'm sure the current environment has you thinking differently about what you've built and how you've built it. We're all watching the news, still experiencing how COVID-19 has exposed how we do business, operational cracks across our profession and many others. So I can tell you that practice growth in this environment is challenged, absolutely, but it's not impossible with an awareness of how current events have and will continue to impact and really shape client behavior. So by having a thoughtful game plan, as John talked about, deployed over the long term can really help firms get to the next level. So some questions my clients are even asking me include, how should I grow my client base, finding new ways to provide value and reach operational efficiency, and then how to virtually optimize your business model. So in my opinion, really, what actually remains certain, even in uncertain times, is that spending time working on your business is going to provide both opportunities to serve your clients better and be in a position to pivot if any significant business disruptions happen. And the current environment really is telling us things can change very quickly. So the question I have for advisors is, how will you respond? So there are a few items that are top of mind for advisors. And that includes optimizing the work from home or virtual setup, managing your remote teams and work, rethinking operations, building out your CRM functionality, and actually leveraging LinkedIn for business development. So let's just be honest, clients are really anxious right now. So the personal touch of seeing a face can really help reassure them of your concern and expertise. Many broker-dealers are offering services like Zoom and WebEx to facilitate virtual meetings. So you want to think about how you can get this process down so that your meetings with your clients can continue seamlessly. You want to make sure you have a good headset, strong internet connection, good lighting, and a dedicated workspace and familiarity with the video conferencing platform in order to make sure the experience is a good one for your clients. Tips to remain engaged as an office team. Everyone is working remotely right now, and so you want to make sure that you're checking in with your team and having regular virtual meetings to assess concerns and business needs to lift morale. There's a lot going on in our industry and society right now, and so you want to make sure you're checking in with your people. Next up is leveraging LinkedIn for business development. So I have a question. When was the last time you checked your own LinkedIn account, updated your profile? And really, if you're not using LinkedIn today, you're missing out on a wealth of new business and connection opportunities. So in a recent article that I read, about 40% of investors age 18 to 44 find that an advisor's LinkedIn profile is of significant importance in them deciding if they'd like to work with the advisor. I certainly understand compliance concerns that are out there, advisors not sure what they can post and when they can post it, but it'd be a great idea for you to understand your firm policy when it comes to posting in social media so that you don't miss out on the opportunity to connect with prospective new clients. At the end of this presentation, I have a resource for others to look at in terms of how to optimize your LinkedIn profile. So next step, and this is in line really with managing remote teams and work, is rethinking operations and building out your CRM functionality. So I'm sure you have discovered operational inefficiencies that have come up really post-COVID, and keeping track of client actions in your CRM is going to be of significant importance. You want to make sure that it's built out in a way where your workflows are clear, individuals know what they need to be working on, and you can track progress. So firms who want to position themselves well are going to also think about creating an improvement plan to review how operations is managed both in the short and long term. And then also making sure that your people know exactly what they need to do to move the ball forward. So practice growth in the near term. One thing that I've been seeing a lot with either my clients and individuals that I've been speaking with is adjusting the client engagement approach. So really in upsetting times, clients are going to have a specific communication preference, and it may be different from their typical communication style. So you want to think about reaching out to them via phone, email, video conferencing, and even within groups, and make sure that you adapt accordingly, especially with your top-tier clients. You also want to continue to send out emails, which are an effective and efficient way to connect with your clients. But be mindful of the frequency of the messaging so you aren't contributing to inbox clutter. Some ideas of examples of emails that you can send is asking clients how their families are faring and let them know that you're thinking of them will probably be well received. People are feeling really isolated right now and they want to engage. Make sure your messages have empathy and let them know that you're available and ready to help. Next step is building out your digital marketing strategy. So now more than ever, individuals are checking social media in search of current and credible information. So this is an opportunity for you to post educational content to demonstrate your expertise. You can also share relevant news articles and videos, write posts about what you and your team are doing during this time of social distancing, and really having a strong digital footprint so that clients as well as prospective clients can find you. I've seen a lot of growth in some clients that I've been working with because of their strong digital footprint. And this is a theme that has been shared by both John and Layla, is continuing to work on the business. So your website is your marketing and information hub, and it's one of the first places your clients will go to connect with you. So it's important that your site is up to date and accurate. You want to add information to your homepage, including who to contact, with inquiries and the best way to contact that person, sharing information about how the coronavirus is impacting the economy, resources on how to have difficult conversations amidst the current state of race relations in our country, and how to become an ally in supporting people of color at work as well as in the community. Now, this is practice growth in the near term. Next level practice growth includes the business improvement process. And so what you want to do is really take an assessment of your current business. You want to decide what areas of your practice need improvement. For example, you got a marketing plan, but you're not really executing it consistently. Or your onboarding of new clients really isn't effective. It's kind of hit or miss. So then what you want to do is analyze the right actions to take to fix those issues, break down those actions into steps, and then implement these steps over the near and long term. Now, what's going to happen here is you're going to get insight into what's working and what's not working. You're going to be able to prioritize your biggest pain points and how it's impacting your firm, as well as developing a set of recommendations that you can build and implement. This is an area that I help my clients with, and so if anyone has any questions, feel free to contact me. So moving into and shifting gears a bit and focusing on what you can control, right? So during a crisis, there's a new normal for risk tolerance. You want to help your clients by re-engaging with them and understanding how this pandemic is affecting them emotionally and financially. You want to help them reach conclusions that are consistent with reasonable expectations and not irrational or even desperate ones. Delivering on core expectations, you can really never engage too much. This is a time to build and solidify relationships for a lifetime. And so checking in with clients and prospects and letting them know that your team is available to help with anything that they need. Communicating your value is really important because perception is everything. And you are the professionals your clients have hired to help them navigate their investments. And so you want to help them understand why they're working with you and not someone else, and not disappearing and staying front and center in their lives. Providing meaningful advice and positioning yourself as an expert authority on what questions your clients may have will really mean a lot at this time. People are Googling answers for their specific questions, and you want to position yourself as the go-to resource to answer questions according to their situation. And then going beyond investment. We can't control that. Market volatility is going to persist. I'm sure many of you, as well as myself, are even questioning the upswing in the market despite still high unemployment rates. You can continue to show your clients your value beyond investing. So being connected to them, they really need to feel your trust, and even a little personalization can go a long way. So an example of this is how you can go beyond investments is you may consider organizing a personal webinar series that speaks to the non-monetary issues your clients are facing, including how to improve self-care during challenging times, how to have difficult conversations with families, friends, and colleagues are some examples of that. Now, you might be asking yourself, where do you go from here? So there are some resources for practice growth that I've created. And the first resource is it's about a 5-minute video of what a business assessment analysis can look like across your firm. And many advisors kind of get out there and don't really have a guided plan of how to move forward once they're in business. So the business assessment provides the framework for a business improvement plan and gives structure very similarly to the financial plan that you're creating for your clients across key areas such as business strategy and planning, business development, and optimizing operations. The second resource here is a prospect planner guide, and it's a PDF for advisors to use in facilitating an effective prospective client meeting. There's questions and a framework to set yourself up for more closed business. And then this resource here is how to improve your LinkedIn skills. So current conditions are not allowing us to have in-person meetings, but yet the desire for business development and growth is still very front and center. So how can you improve your LinkedIn skills to grow your brand, firm, and reach? And really that's by leveraging LinkedIn in smart ways. So this is a series of trainings that individuals can opt into to get more help in that area and figure out how to improve how they're connecting with individuals, increasing their followers who can engage with their content, as well as visibility to prospects and COIs. And finally, the steps to practice growth are going to be unique to each advisory firm, but the roadmap to make it happen is very similar. So in anything you do in your business, from your marketing plan to your client service plan or business development, you want to evaluate the landscape and define your strategy before implementing. And as John mentioned earlier, you want to plan for the future. Business disruptions are going to happen, and you want to make sure that you're putting yourself in a position to future-proof your business and ask yourself, what side of the fence do you want to live on? My contact information is here for anyone who wants more information or who has questions. Thank you so much for your time and attention, and I'm going to turn it back over to our moderator, Toby. Thank you.
Thank you, Cameo. Wonderful presentation. And now a brief word from our sponsor.
Hey, everybody. My name is Hayden Perkle. I'm a product marketing manager at Plaid. Specifically, I'm the PMM for our investments products. I wanted to thank everybody for joining our webinar today. Thank Financial Planning, as well as all of our presenters for the great webinar. As I said, my name's Hayden Perkle. For those of you that are not familiar with Plaid, we're a fintech infrastructure company that works with thousands of financial services brands and fintech apps to enable their end users to connect their financial accounts from over 15,000 institutions across North America and Europe. In the wealth management / financial planning space, Plaid offers two primary value propositions. So the first is really allowing financial advisors, wealth management platforms, portfolio intelligence tools to provide more holistic advice, insights, and recommendations based on account information that's stored away in held away accounts. These can be investment accounts, liability accounts, depository, credit accounts. And then the second value prop is really around account funding and asset acquisition. So our auth, balance, and identity products can streamline ACH-based account funding workflows, and then our soon-to-be launched in a few weeks investment auth product can actually streamline the investment account transfer process by sourcing the data required to initiate an ACAT or ATON transfer. That's all the time for me. Again, thank you so much for joining. We were super excited to sponsor this webinar. Feel free to reach out to me at hayden@plaid.com directly, or you can visit our website, plaid.com, to learn more about our products and some of the ways in which we can help your business. Appreciate it.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And before we go to our question and answer section, wanted to make sure and mention that you should be seeing a prompt to provide your CFP number for your CE credit, and that should be available to you throughout the rest of the presentation. So go ahead and take the opportunity to enter it when you can. And now, why don't we shift to the Q&A? And the first question that came in for Layla, how do you establish a podcast and videos and keep them compliant, an advisor asks?
You know, it's like I said earlier, when I woke up that morning and I wanted to start this podcast, it turns out it's really quite simple. It's through Zoom, and you basically, Zoom has different accounts that allow, specific number of people to join, and so we got the largest one, and then we sent out an email with the phone number and the password to all our clients asking them to join us for the podcast. And that's what they do, and we actually get to see while we're on the podcast who's calling in, because most people call through their Zoom accounts or they can just call from a phone. So I have a lot of older clients that don't have a Zoom account. They're all getting it, but all they have to do is just call that number and put in the password, and they get to listen to us. So it's a pretty simple way of having a podcast. And then as long as we don't get very specific as far as, what stocks we're buying and what we're selling, the minute we're done with the podcast, we send it over to LPL, our broker-dealer, and for them to approve it. And then we provide the replay. We send the replay out to clients, and we also have it on the website. And one of the things that we've used to promote this as well is I found that on my signature block on my email that I can put the link. I tell the clients when is the next podcast, and then the link and the password right there and then, so they have it right there on my email signature block. And that's been very helpful, so they don't get the email or it's blocked, so forth. It's right there on my email, and it's actually on all the team members' emails as well. Hopefully that answers the question there.
Absolutely. And our next question for John Hyland. Any tips on tracking prospecting activity, realizing that it's important, it can be really hard to stick to?
Yeah, no doubt about that, Toby. So prospecting for us, again, we're maybe a little different than Layla's situation we serve our advisors, and then our advisors serve their clients. So our prospects are advisors. And you may not be surprised that our number one engine of growth and prospects is our existing advisors. I think over the years, we started as advisors. So when we built Private Advisor Group, we did it through the lens of a financial advisor, which is a little nuanced. It's really all about the advisor. And we have a pretty happy community, by and large, of 661 advisors. And if they're pleased about what we do and the platform we provide and the service we give, then they talk. We know that about advisors, right? They talk about good things, they talk about bad things. And so prospecting for us is a number of different sources, but our number one is our existing advisors.
I see. And Camille, if it's okay, I wanted to also throw it to you when it comes to advisors who are asking you this about their prospecting and how to track that and stay on course. What advice would you have for them?
Yeah, that's a great question. What I would say is you want to think about building out a prospecting process within your CRM. You want to be able to track every entry point for prospective clients who are coming in so that you know at what point you need to reach out to them, you need to follow up. And then also it'll be great for any sales tracking or monthly or quarterly goals that you have. So what I would recommend to get this implemented, if you haven't already done so, is think about the process outside of your CRM first. Build it outside using a Word document or resources such as Process Street, and then build in the workflow steps within your CRM to make sure that you're tracking appropriately prospective clients in your sales funnel.
I see. And our next question is for Layla. How do you promote educational seminars for prospects? So another question on prospects, but on the tech side of it. Do you use Eventbrite, or do you go directly with Zoom for that?
So we have been using Zoom. We have found that it's really the one product that people are using to communicate with their friends, with their relatives, especially in this thing with COVID. So we've chosen to focus on Zoom as our marketing. We're doing a big event, an hour-and-a-half event Zoom at the end of the month, and we've been promoting it now. And it's we already have a tremendous number of people signed up for it. So I'm not familiar with Eventbrite, but we've used Zoom. We'll continue to use it for now.
Very useful tool these days. Our next question is for Cameo. This is for the overworked advisors out there. If you are feeling like you're already at capacity and you don't have time to make changes at your firm, how do you overcome that challenge?
That's a great question, Toby, and it's one that I think is affecting a lot of advisors, especially in the current environment. So I'd say the first thing you want to do is understand the importance of how these roadblocks are impeding your growth. You may have goals that you're looking to accomplish, and until we get past these roadblocks, you're not going to be able to get to the next level. Secondly, I'd say is start to make a list of what needs to be done, identifying key actions that need to be taken care of. And if you have a team, you want to start to delegate these actions out to your team so that takes some things off of your plate and allows you to focus more on revenue-generating activities or things that are going to move your business forward. Another practical idea is to use calendar blocks on your calendar where you can dedicate to working on this task list or other areas that are going to improve your business. And then additionally, if you're looking for a way to get organized, you can work with an outsourced resource like myself to help you figure out how to move things forward in a systematic and organized way. So those are all ideas that I would consider doing if you're figuring out how do you get from point A to point B.
Always a good question to keep in mind. I believe we have time for one more question, so I'm going to throw this one to John Hyland. In your experience, what has been the biggest obstacle in creating a successful business over the long term?
Wow, do I have 25 minutes to answer that?
You have about 1 minute.
No, sure. So I'll just react quickly on that, Toby. I think leadership is really important, or lack of it. I've always said, and this has been a theme through my whole life, is that be careful who you surround yourself with. And I think team and executive teams are so important. Us as a firm, as an example, just because it's an easy one for me to give an example of, is that we make every decision as a team. I have a title, somebody has a title, I can do what I want, but we don't do it that way. We literally, 99% of our decisions in the last 12 years is done on a team-based process, which we think is really important. And therefore, we listen to everybody. We're collaborative. And, Jimmy, what's his name? Jim Johnson, the artist. He has a song called "Better Together," and that's kind of a theme that we always carry through our meetings. And we think that's been part of the reason we've been as successful as we have been over the years.
Excellent. I believe you answered it so efficiently that we had time for one more, actually, for Cameo. This is about firms with teams. It's also something that Layla spoke about in her presentation, but for Cameo, for firms with teams, what can they do to improve their efficiency and communication, especially in a time of remote work?
Yeah, happy to share on this. So one thing I'd say first off is developing an internal communication plan with your team members. And then you want to look at categorizing the type of communication that's going to be happening, whether that's client matters, team quick messages, extended matters, and then having weekly team meetings. And so if you figure out how you want to actually communicate with your team through different tech platforms and the types of communication, and then let the team know this is how we're going to communicate with one another. So for really short messages, let's use Instant Messenger or Slack as an example. If it's an extended client matter, let's use that with an email. Now, if it's an issue that requires a lot of question or follow-up, you may just want to pick up the phone and talk to that individual. And then making sure that you're having those weekly check-in meetings that I mentioned in my presentation so you can assess what's going on with your team, check in, and make sure everyone is doing well and the work is getting done. And all of that should come from the top down. So leadership should decide what the communication plan is and then communicate that to the team.
Absolutely. And wow, so much actionable intelligence here today. And thank you to all of our presenters for putting together an excellent hour of programming for our attendees. And thank you all for taking the time. I know that I speak for everyone when I say that if you have any questions at all, please do feel free to get in contact. And thanks for taking the time to learn about practice growth.